It is wonderful to be with all of you tonight. Please, while I'm talking, go make yourselves comfortable. Grab a warm drink, a snack, some sweet potato pie if you happen to be pre-gaming. I'm Ariella Markowitz, the founding director of SVIVAH. We have wonderful new faces here today. Always, it is so good to see you. I'm so glad you found your way here. 30 seconds about SVIVAH. SVIVAH is about revolutionizing the way that women come together in community, discovering and exploring the unique and beautiful Torah that comes from our lived experience in a space where the Torah is personal and the personal is Torah. Our goal is always to learn with and from each other and to do all of this within a community of care. We define both Jewish and women very broadly. If you want to be with us, we want you with us and welcome. We love that we are multi-generational and diverse in backgrounds and affiliations, and we come together in celebration and support of women, our strengths, our unique perspectives, and our ways of impacting the world. And we're going to talk about all of that tonight. Thank you to Jordan Rosensky, SVIVAH's Director of Community, for your wisdom and humor in bringing us together. I am very excited for all of you to see what Jordan has in store for us later. Not just our messy houses, although that was a good one. And thank you, as always, to the Aviv and Covenant Foundations for believing in the beautiful ways that we can come together. I want to also start for a second by asking that our learning tonight be in memory of someone special, Janet Littman, Zechrona Livracha, who passed away just a few weeks ago. Janet was a very special woman, a role model to me, and a longtime part of our SVIVAH community. She was part of our very first SVIVAH gatherings. I can see her in the front row in my mind's eye. Back when they were in person in Washington, D.C., and she came regularly to our Zoom gatherings for all of these years. Always, she stayed online until the very end to make sure that she personally thanked our teachers. She loved studying Torah. Janet was a self-made Torah scholar. And relevant to SVIVAH, she loved studying Torah, particularly from women. Janet herself was an independent woman who reinvented herself professionally many times throughout her life in order to be able to have it all, to provide for her family, and also be available to care for her kids and help them with their homework and give them everything that she could. She was a very special lady, a teacher at heart, always seeing the best in people and what they needed in order to grow. And I know she is missed by many. She always used to bump into me on but this is a real tell. She was on the way home from synagogue while I was walking to synagogue. But she was the early bird. I was not. But she always stopped to ask me how I was and offer her advice with gentleness and care. And she really was such a wonderful listener. Family was extremely important to Janet. It was something she valued deeply and prioritized above so many things throughout her life. She worked very hard at family, and it showed. And we should all be so lucky to have our loved ones speak about us the way that Janet's loved ones spoke of her at her funeral. Janet, we wish you were still here with us in person. We miss you, but we know that you're here with us in spirit, learning Torah, learning this Torah of family, and surrounded by smart, caring, wonderful women. May Janet's neshama have an aliyah, and may her memory be for a blessing. Thank you for letting us share tonight with her. So tonight's topic wobbles between lighthearted and heavy. I know not everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. We have lovely Canadians here. But it is definitely in the air. Family and good times and togetherness and hashtag grateful are absolutely coming out of my ears, at least. And while that is wonderful and great, we know that it's not everything for everyone. Family is a very big word and a wonderful word, and also a complicated word. And I just want to note that I don't think it's a coincidence that like a zillion years ago, but actually 7, it was on Thanksgiving weekend that I took a deep breath and launched SVIVAH. The idea was, and still is, very simple, that none of us are meant to go through life alone. Sometimes we get family, or in this case, sisters, who help us through life, and other times we find sisters who hold our hands and guide our way. And SVIVAH was always supposed to be that, an extra room full of sisters whenever you needed one. And so today, I really just want to say thank you for being my sisters, because every single one of you here tonight got that memo. You understood and understand what it means to show up in sisterhood with and for each other. And it's like, it's overwhelming. It's something very spectacular to witness and something even more precious to be part of. Tonight is about family and about community, the ways in which the people that we choose can give us some of the things that we want or need from family. Community and sisterhood is just another group of people that can fulfill our individual needs that we can't and aren't meant to fulfill on our own, like that sense of belonging and connection and shared values and shared history and support, all of it. That's what we're supposed to be able to offer each other, and it's very precious that we can open a Zoom room and find that, and I don't take it for granted for a second. We're going to hear lots more about the roles of family and community tonight, but I just wanted to make sure to tell all of you how grateful I am to have you as mine. Before I hand it off to Dahlia, I just want you all to know how much care and thoughtfulness Rabbi Dahlia Davis brought into this gathering. Dahlia is SVIVAH's Director of Pastoral Education, which means that tonight is super her wheelhouse. How can our learning hit our hearts? How can Torah hold our hearts? And how can we use our lived experience to make our Jewish learning and our foundational texts go deeper and come alive, like in our bloodstreams? There's a lot more to say, but for now, Dahlia, I really just want to say thank you for being unafraid to walk right into the crazy of all of our family drama and to come with Torah wisdom and emotional support so that we are all the beautiful, beautiful beneficiaries of your teaching. Thank you so much for thinking about how we should come together in this season and for giving us a space to hold each other and feel each other. It really is so, so precious. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ariella. And I feel like I should say like happy birthday, SVIVAH. Like that's such a beautiful thing that it started on Thanksgiving. So thank you for starting all of this and for making this all possible. So tonight, as Ariella mentioned, we're going to be doing a bit of a balancing act, a juggling act between the serious and the lighthearted, and kind of make this mishmash that, in my mind, really depicts what family is, right? There's moments that are amazing, there's moments that are so hard, and there's everything in between. And so we're going to try to enjoy and also feel and also explore and also learn and just do it all together. So to start us off, I'm going to invite Jordan to join me, and we're going to do a group poll of different questions, and we're going to take all of your opinions and see where everybody's at, see how what we have in common. And this is meant to be really just an exploration that we can enjoy together. So there's no right answers to anything. Anything you write is amazing, and everything you write is anonymous. So you can write whatever you want, and nobody will know it was you, which I think is super fun. So Jordan, would you like to explain exactly how our poll is going to work?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dahlia. I'm excited to get this started today. We're just gonna kind of get the wheel rolling as a community, like Dahlia said. I'm gonna show a poll, and everyone has a chance to answer it, and we'll just see where we are as a community. I promise you, they're not all serious questions. So our first question is, what is your favorite pie flavor? And I know Dahlia said there's no right answer, but there is a wrong answer. So our choices are apple, pumpkin, pecan, or pecan, depending on where you're coming from, sweet potato, chocolate cream, or lemon meringue. And if you can't get the poll to work or you have a totally different answer, feel free to just drop your answer in the chart. And I'll give a little bit more for anybody else to get in there. All right. So it looks like our favorite pie, they're pretty, they're not too different, but our favorite pie is pecan, which I think that's great, followed by apple. And it looks like we've got a tie between pumpkin and chocolate cream, which is surprising. Then a few are the lemon meringue, and then coming up, holding out up in their own is sweet potato, which, glad you're trying, sweet potato. Good job. Good job. All
I
right.
can't believe more people didn't vote for lemon meringue. Not to say what I
Oh,
voted for, but that's so surprising.
all right. Our next poll. How do you think cranberry sauce should be served? And I know that this is something that is heavily debated, but we've got jellied, straight from the can, still has the indentations on it. It's got convenience, it's got nostalgia. Whole berry, only and always. Fight me, which is actually the words that Ariella used for this. She's the one that's going to be, after you. And then fresh and homemade. It's easier than it sounds. So giving you a little bit longer to look. And if you're on your phone, you might not be able to see the poll. So just listen in, and you can always shout out in the chat if you want to. All right, so it looks like we've got some letting me know they don't like cranberry sauce, and you know what? That's valid. I also don't really care for the cranberry sauce, but fresh and homemade uh, is definitely the winner there. And I'm surprised whole berry came up last. What do you think, Dahlia?
I voted for Wholeberry.
Of course
So
you did. Of course
clearly
you
all the things
did.
I'm voting for are losing. I wonder what that means.
All right, our next question. Oops, hold on a second. All right, our next question. All right, if we had a SVIVAH potluck, I would bring, your choices are a traditional recipe that's been passed down in my family for ages, something viral I just saw on Instagram, napkins and cutlery, that would be me. I'm bringing the napkins for sure. My sparkly personality, it makes up for not cooking, and flowers. Flowers are the last option there. All right. I'll give you a little bit longer to get your answers in. All right. It's still moving. We're still voting. All right. Our results. Looks like a lot of us are going to be bringing recipes that have been passed down for ages. I would like those to be definitely shared in the chat. I can't wait to hear what you're bringing. What about you, Dahlia? What'd you vote for?
I'm a little embarrassed. I voted for napkins and cutlery.
That's what I would do too. Don't worry. Don't worry. That's
I know. I feel like every Shabbat I have to cook. Thanksgiving is like the one that I don't want to cook.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. I was up between napkins and cutlery and my sparkling personality. But it's definitely nothing that I'm cooking for. All right. Poll number 4. All right. What is your holiday superpower? I hopped a little bit for this one, but first choice is instantly remove stuck on wax from a menorah because we're all going to be pulling those out soon, and that's going to be relevant. Can listen to the same stories again and again and again. Can set a tablescape worthy of Martha Stewart. Never runs out of Tupperware lids that match. What an amazing superpower that would be. Just call me Julia Child. Remember all the birthdays and important milestones, and I'll bring the music and you'll ask for the playlist later. So we'll give people a little bit more time there. Anybody having really strong reactions in the chat? I see that someone was bringing carrot kugel, that's really interesting. And someone else's power is getting people to engage, which I'm surprised we didn't put that one in there because that is a very SVIVAH superpower.
Yeah, it's a really important one.
Yeah,
Oh, good listener. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So listening to the stories over and over again seems to be a big one. And that kind of makes sense for this evening because we're going to be looking at some of the stories of our tradition that we hear over and over, but each time we hear them differently. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Number 5. Who are you in your family or friend group? The peacemaker, the host, the go-between, the yenta, gossip girl, or the avoider of all conversations about feelings? This one you might be able to tell we're rolling it up again. We're getting a little bit more personal. We're starting to get into it. We started with pie and now we're really.
Yeah. We have to warm up so that we can have our Torah teaching.
Yeah,
Be
exactly.
ready to dive in.
All right. All right. I'm going to end the poll and let's see.
Mm.
So we got a lot of
Should have nothing.
we got a lot of peacemakers. Talia, what'd you vote for?
This is a hard one. It depends on which family we're talking about. So I needed to have like a multiple choice one where you could do like all the above or none of the above. Or, I did the peacemaker, but that's not always true. I think sometimes I'm all of these. Hopefully not too much the Yenta, but definitely all the other ones, I think.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. We've got 2 more. So, number 6. How do family gatherings make you feel? At my best, at my messiest, they make me feel warm and fuzzy, like I'm walking on eggshells or gloves on and ready for the ring. And there's a question of what do you if you don't have family coming? These questions can relate to anything. Your friend group, maybe if you often go, to a Shabbat dinner with people, just, anytime we've got a large gathering or anytime you're thinking about how you interact with others. Because it definitely is complex. We know not everyone has a ton of family members coming or even celebrates Thanksgiving, but every answer is valid. All right. So it looks like we've got walking on eggshells is definitely the winner there. So hopefully we'll get some ideas about how to have good conversations tonight and feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, and we know that holidays can be really tough. When you lose someone or you're in a moment of transition, we definitely appreciate that none of these answers are simple. And as fun as this poll was to write, we know that it can actually be really hard to answer these questions.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say I was a part of writing this poll and the beginning questions I was okay. And then it got more difficult to answer and everything really felt like, well, it depends. And it kind of can bring up some deep emotions. And I think what, like you're saying, Jordan, in these moments where we want to try to bring people together, whether you do Thanksgiving or not, or you're getting together on a Shabbat or any other time, when you want things to work out so beautifully, sometimes it can be really complicated and all these different elements and dynamics of family can come into play.
Yeah. Which brings us to our last question, which is already up on your screen, so you can start voting. But what is your preferred method of handling tense conversations around a table? Doesn't have to be Thanksgiving, but anytime you're around a table. So the first one is my answer, which is pretend to check on the dog, or the cat, or the news, or the dinner. Um, Next one is to try to change the topic to anything else at all. Smile and nod and try to suppress your ideas and emotions. Sit silently and stare at your hands, or roll up your sleeves and get into it. Listen with an open mind and heart, or leave the house without saying goodbye. Offer people more wine. Remove all sharp objects from the table. Force people in a group hug. Stand up and yell loudly, "We are supposed to be grateful for each other." Or finally, "Oh, look, is that a UFO flying by?" So, give you another minute or so. Yeah, definitely cats are definitely a good distraction. I have one that keeps walking back and forth right in front of my computer, but right below it. So I just see her, no one else. All right. So with about, here we go. Uh, it doesn't look like we really have a clear winner. We have people kind of all over it, listening, getting into it, smiling, changing the topic, standing up and yelling. One person saw a UFO, valid. So,
Yeah. I noticed that there's nobody who leaves the house without saying goodbye.
yeah.
That really struck me. And also that like almost the flip side of that there's also nobody who forces the group hug. Um, which I feel like I've been in that situation where I've been like, we're gonna all just hug now and everything's gonna be okay. And that totally doesn't always work, as Caryn can tell us more about later. But this is really, I really appreciate everybody sharing in this way. And I hope that sharing it honestly felt like a open invitation to start to kind of think about some of these questions and to be able to do this. Like I saw some people in the chat mentioning the humor, like Jordan and Ariella really came up with beautiful humorous lines to help us get at something that's very deep, and that's one beautiful way to enter into it. And the next way that we're going to enter it into it is a very, very SVIVAH way, which is we're going to enter into this topic through Torah. And so we are so lucky to have tonight Rav Avi Killip here to teach us. And I'm going to share a little bit of Rav Avi's bio here, and then you can see the rest in the chat. But Rav Avi Killip is the Executive Vice President at Hadar, a graduate of Hebrew College Rabbinical School. Avi also holds a bachelor and master's from Brandeis University. She's a Wexner Graduate Fellow, a Schusterman Fellow. She does lots of teaching and podcasting with Hadar. And when I got to speak to Rav Avi a little bit to prepare for this topic, I was so touched by the pieces of Torah that you were thinking about using and that you're going to use tonight. And just, I feel like the way that you approach the learning is so perfect for SVIVAH, and we're just really, really happy you're here. So thank you.
Thank you. You can hear me? We'll just do a check. It's so nice to be here. I sort of have to echo the gratitude, even though there's been enough of it to go around, but it's a Thanksgiving presentation, so how can we not? Just to say, like, just the space that SVIVAH creates is so special, and it's such a delight to get to come and do some teaching. Okay, I am Rabbi Avi Killip. In speaking with Ariel and Dahlia about what are we trying to do tonight and in this session, in this gathering, is I was hearing that we're trying to acknowledge that sometimes when we talk about Thanksgiving, when we imagine Thanksgiving, we imagine that like everybody else's family is this perfect family that is all getting along. And I think we do the same thing in our Jewish communities, of course. Like we always imagine that whatever's happening in my family that is complicated feels like it's somehow a deviant, it's somehow different, it's somehow abnormal, and everyone else is normal. All the other Americans, all the other Jews, everyone else is normal. And I was telling Dahlia that I had a conversation once with Rabbi Ezra Weinberg, actually, who was he runs an organization about divorce in the Jewish community. And one of the things that he and I came up with is that we said, he was saying, like, people talk about modern families. The modern family it doesn't look like that. Modern families look different. The TV show Modern Family, which isn't even such a new show anymore, that models all these different ways a family can look. And we said, really, we should call them, instead of modern families, we should call them biblical families, actually. Because the families in the Torah are very complicated. And the figures in the Torah are living these really complicated lives, especially in Breshit. So I was at an event this evening. I said, "Oh, I have to run home because I'm teaching for SVIVAH tonight." And someone said, "Well, what are you teaching on?" I said, "Well, it's about Thanksgiving. So the idea is about families that are complicated." And the person said back to me, "Oh, well, it could just be the parsha. Like you could just be teaching the parsha." So even without my saying, like, "Here's what I want to teach," she was saying, "Look, when you want to learn about families that look different, actually, you can just look to the Torah, and you can look in particular to to the book of Genesis, right? To Bereshit, which is the part of the Torah that we are reading right now. If you're a person who's attending synagogue or shul, and you're part of the Torah cycle. So what I want to do, I'll introduce the topic, and then I'll ask you to share the handout for us, is to share a methodology that I learned that has been really powerful and impactful for me. So more than sharing a specific text, which is what I do sometimes with SVIVAH calls, I want to share actually like a way of approaching Torah. And it was introduced to me with the title Theological Reflection. And I first learned this methodology when I was in a chaplaincy training class. And I was actually visiting homebound elderly around New York City. And I would show up in someone's home and they would tell me something really hard going on in their life. And I, went back to my chaplaincy mentor and I was like, but then I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know how to help them. Like it's really hard and I can listen, but I want to be able to offer people more than listening. And what she offered me, what she taught me that I want to give over to you is this concept of theological reflection, which is that when something is going on in your life, and it could be about families, I'm going to bring some family examples now, but it could be so many different things. When you are living a life experience that is hard, and maybe in particular that you feel alone in, you can turn not just to other people, other sisters in the room, as RL was saying, who have that experience, but you can turn actually to the Bible and look for someone in the Bible who has had some version of that experience, some element of that experience. And once you find that character, you can then study that part of the Torah in order to find wisdom that will both help you feel less alone and maybe help you understand something about the experience that you're going through. And if you can find that in the Torah, then you not only have that story of the Torah, but you have all the commentaries that everyone has written in all of Jewish history about that story to help you digest and think about and process what you're going through. So I want us to look at some examples. And I think, I don't know, Dahlia, if you're the one sharing the handout or who's the person sharing the handout, we'll take a look here. What I brought for you is, again, not long. I'm just bringing you one verse sort of per story as a way to just situate us in the text. So I'm starting with the character of Jacob, and I want to just offer two different ways into this story of Jacob. And the first is estrangement from family, which felt like for Thanksgiving a place that we have to start, right? I can't not start here. And I want to share. Well, first I'll read the verse and I'll situate us in the story, and then I'll share something about this. Okay, so here's the lines from Genesis 27. Again, this is right where we are in the Torah now, in the Torah cycle. We are in Parshat Toldot this week. Now Esav harbored a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing which his father had given him. And Esau said to himself, "Let but the mourning period of my father come, and I will kill my brother Jacob." So this is very extreme, right? This isn't just like you are thinking right now, like, oh, there's people in my family who fight. Are we going to get up from the table? Are we going to look for a UFO? Like, this is actually, I want to kill my brother Jacob. When the words of her oldest son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she sent for her younger son Jacob, and she said to him, "Your brother Esau is consoling himself by planning to kill you. Now, my son, listen to me. Flee at once to Haran, to my brother Lavan." This is a story of estrangement. This is sort of an extreme story of estrangement. I want us to share this story, which is, I had a mentor of mine, a teacher in rabbinical school, who told us a story about his congregation. He was a congregational rabbi, and he said on Rosh Hashanah, he gave a sermon on estrangement. And he started the sermon by saying, "I want to ask everyone in the room to raise your hand if someone in your family doesn't speak to someone else in your family," right? If anyone in your family has someone else in your family that they don't speak to. And everyone in the entire congregation raised their hand. So like, we won't do that right now. But just to say that it's much more pervasive of a problem, right? Again, we can have this imagination like Jewish families all get along with each other, right? everybody is with their families all together at Thanksgiving and everyone is living in perfect harmony. And to know that like that's not true in the Jewish community. And here we have this story that we could find a way in. So I just want to pick out like what are a couple ways you could find your way into this story, right? You could be the Esau in the story, right? There could be someone in your family that did something that you find so egregious that you feel like you could kill them. Hopefully not actually kill them, but you may identify with him here. You may identify actually with Rebecca, right? Rebecca is the in between, right? She's not maybe estranged from either son here, but she's not only seeing the estrangement, but kind of orchestrating it, kind of saying like, you need to be kept apart from each other in order to be safe. I got you. I'm sending you away. And you may feel like you're Jacob, like maybe you're being sent away, actually. And there's sort of like a family that's going on, and you were sent off to flee, to go be somewhere else. If this story speaks to you, I'm bringing it here to say, like, come back to this story, open up the Torah, read this story, read commentaries on this story, and maybe you will find in it something that helps you feel a little bit less alone. I'm going to give a few more examples here. And I wanted to bring two examples from Jacob just to show that the same character can be a model of multiple things. Okay, so here, I titled this, I like to give titles that really make it clear what I'm trying to say here, right? A husband who doesn't know what his wife is up to. Okay, so I'll read the verse and then I'll situate you a little bit in what's happening in the story here. Here's what it says. But anyone with whom you find your gods shall not remain alive. In the presence of our kin, point out what I have of yours and take it. This is the part I'm going to emphasize for you here. Jacob, of course, did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Okay, this is a less well-known maybe line of the Torah. I'll tell you the scene. Jacob eventually marries Rachel and Leah, and he serves for many, many years in the house of Lavan, and he leaves Lavan's house, and he takes with him his family, his wives. And Lavan chases after him, and Lavan says, "You stole my idols." And Jacob says, "I didn't steal your idols. Search my whole camp. And if you find the idols here, like anyone who stole the idols, anyone who has the idols, that person could die. That's on that person, right? They shall not remain alive." And we know, as the readers of the story, something that he doesn't know, which is that Rachel, his wife, is the one who took the idols, right? And we get this explicit, Velo yada Yaakov. Jacob doesn't know. It's funny, the of course here, right, that was put into the translation, that Rachel, that his wife, Rachel, is the one who stole the idols. I want to bring this, I was looking for an example that would maybe, that's not estrangement, right? Maybe you're like, this is not estrangement. This is what I'm dealing with is not estrangement, but there's still tension. There's still some way in which my spouse and I are not exactly on the same page here. Rachel is the most beloved wife of Jacob, right? Let's be clear. Jacob and Leah have different kind of problems, and maybe you're a Jacob and Leah marriage and you want to study that story. But Jacob and Rachel, that's the good marriage, and yet they still have this problem. So maybe you're the Rachel in the story where you feel like my husband doesn't see me, like I'm doing things and he doesn't know that I did them, right? Or maybe you're the Jacob in this story. Maybe you're like, my husband does things that I don't understand and I can't find my way into. I want to bring this story as again, a version of saying you're not the first husband and wife who love each other, but who actually don't know what each other are up to, and who talk past each other and maybe even make grave mistakes, like calling, cursing the other one accidentally, which is what's happening here. Okay, you'll scroll down for us, and we're just going to spend a couple minutes on these two, and then we'll pass it. I'll pass it back. Another family abandonment story, and in particular a divorce story. And again, for people who feel like they are estranged from family and it wasn't their choice, I'm bringing you the story of Hagar. Early the next morning, Abraham took some bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He placed them over her shoulder together with the child and sent her away, and she wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. I think about this text sometimes as like, oh, is this a precursor for alimony? Like, could we be learning from this that when you send someone away, when you divorce someone, you should send them with something. You shouldn't send them empty-handed. Or maybe this is the opposite lesson, which is you have to send them with more than bread and water, because what's about to happen to Hagar is that she's basically going to starve and not be okay. But I'm bringing this story again as a way of saying, if this is your story, either because you have a divorce narrative or because it wasn't a marriage, but in some way you feel like you're Hagar, you're the outsider, then maybe the Hagar narrative is a story that you want to study and spend some more time with. I want to bring you the story of Sarah, and I'm bringing you the story of Sarah as a little bit out of the box because I just want to offer that how theological reflection can be used where you don't have to live the exact same life as the biblical character. So here we read, and God said to Abraham, as for your wife Sarah, you shall not call her Sarai, sorry, your wife Sarai, but Sarah, but her name shall be Sarah. I will bless her, and indeed I will give her a son by her. I will bless her so that she will give rise to nations, rulers of people shall issue from her. Okay, two things I want to say here. One is that Sarah is 90 in this story. That's really significant. And at the age of 90, Sarah gets a new name. So maybe one way into this is that you want to be a different person. There's something fundamental you want to change about yourself. And it can be really beautiful and validating to say, well, Sarah was 90 when she became a different person. So I still have time to become a different person, right? Even if I'm 85 right now, I could still become a different person. And in particular, that person that you may want to make the same mistake that Sarai did, right? Sarai becoming Sarah is adding God into her life. You may say, I want to add God into my life, but I'm too late. I'm too old for adding God into my life. That Sarah is 90 when she adds God into her life. And the second thing that happens to Sarah at 90 is that she becomes a mother for the first time. And it may be, right, that we would read theological reflection narrowly and we would say, well, I can only relate to her if I also get pregnant at the age of 90. And I want to argue that there's two different ways you might read this. One would be to say, like, maybe you're going to give birth to something as an older woman, right? Maybe it's a new business. Maybe it's a new project. Maybe it's a new part of yourself. Is that like, maybe we can read this a little bit metaphorically as like something you're going to do that is different, that you're going to bring something new into the world at 90, because if Sarah can bring a child into the world, I can bring something new. And the other is to say, like, well, maybe actually this is literally about parenting. And I want to in particular invite anyone on this call who's playing a role as a grandparent. I think grandparents can play very different roles in their children's lives. And sometimes grandparents really find themselves raising their grandchildren. And that can feel like, oh my God, I'm doing a thing that has no context, right? I have a unique life experience. This is a unique family structure that I ended up raising my own grandchild, that I ended up raising a grandchild. It's as if I'm a mother at 90. And that we might turn to Sarah's story also for that and say, yeah, families look all different, right? And maybe I am at the age of 90, I'm going to start raising a child, and I have have my original foremother of Judaism to look to and to turn to. So again, I just want to emphasize. I mean, you can stop sharing yeah, great. So I can see everyone. I just want to emphasize that I'm offering this again as a technique that the people we can learn from are also our biblical ancestors, and often we are drawn to learn from the women, but to say like, we should have the flexibility, right? If you find your story in Yaakov, as opposed to Sarah, if you find your story in Avraham um, as opposed to Rivka, like it's all fair game for us to turn to our parsha and learn. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi. I think it's so beautiful because what you're saying is that we kind of can look at these people and learn from them. And I think that's something we often do with our family members, right? Sometimes we'll be named after a family member that passed away, and then we'll learn about who that is and think about how we have similarities with that person, or look to the matriarch or patriarch of our family and say, oh, we want to emulate their qualities. And so by doing this with biblical characters, it's almost like we're just expanding our family and saying, like, these are also people part of our family, even though they lived so long ago. And we can kind of see elements of our lives in theirs and elements of their lives in ours. And that's just a beautiful methodology. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And there's so many stories. It's amazing. I mean, like you said, like the whole Sefer Breshit, the whole book of Genesis has just one family story after another. So it's almost like nothing that we're going through now hasn't been tried or tested a little bit in the beginning of time. Okay, so now that we've kind of thought a little bit about some of the stories that are out there, some of the models, some of the issues that we might be dealing with personally, and that we can learn from the Torah in order to get insights about how we can relate to them, we also want to think about how can we relate to them from a mental health perspective, and what is the healthiest way to approach challenging families, happy families, messy families, all of it. So we are so lucky to have here tonight Caryn Malkus to help us kind of navigate this from a mental health perspective. And I will read you a bit of Caryn's bio, and then you'll see the full thing in the chat. Caryn Malkus is a licensed individual and couples therapist, a relationship expert, and an owner of Caryn Malkus Therapy in Bethesda, Maryland. She's certified as an emotional focused therapist and supervisor. She has other specialties like family friendship, which is a really cool specialty to have as well. And Caryn's been with us in SVIVAH before, and she's added so much to our previous programming. And we are just so excited to learn from you tonight. And we've so appreciated your guidance in figuring out how should we even approach this topic of family to begin with. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And Dahlia, thank you so much for that super kind introduction. I love being with SVIVAH, and I love being with all of you. It's really a privilege and a pleasure for me. So I do want to start just by sharing like my intentions. I really am thoughtful about, what I want each of you to get out of this. And, the thing that I think about the most in terms of being together in community is how can we identify our feelings about, whether it's Thanksgiving or family gatherings, and be able to share them together. There's something about being able to be in community and sharing our feelings and not feeling alone in that. So first and foremost, I really want to help people just identify how they're feeling about this time, and also to really undo any aloneness that any of you might feel right now. And then I also want to just be helpful in sharing some tools, some resources, some ways of thinking about this holiday or even other family gatherings. And lastly, just kind of give some perspective on how we might think about this, not as how the holiday or the gathering should be, but rather how it would feel right for us. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, and I want to invite sharing in the chat, if you feel comfortable just sharing how you are feeling right now as you think about this upcoming holiday or even family gatherings in general. You might not even be celebrating Thanksgiving, but what feeling or feelings come up right away just as you kind of check in with yourself? And feel free to share in the chat. Okay. Feel free to still share if you'd like to. Yeah. Oh, this is really Really, really great. Yeah, I mean, such a gamut of feelings. So we have stress, we have sadness, we have excitement, grief, um, a lot about change and loss. And, of course, there's so much around us that can feel like pressure when it comes to holidays, and family gatherings. So first and foremost, as a tool, as a resource, I just really want everyone to feel like, and if you'd like to put a hand on your heart, please do. I mean, that's me in solidarity with all of you, because I have all those feelings as well. I don't go into family gatherings or holidays with one emotion. We often have a mix. So part of putting a hand on a heart is not just solidarity on your heart, but it's also saying, yeah, of course I feel that way, and giving yourself some validation rather than any kind of judgment for feeling how you feel. Okay. Um, and then the next thing I want to really invite you to think about is intentionality. Just as I shared when I started, my intentions for tonight are this. What do you hope to get out of Thanksgiving or the family gathering, if you are to have one, or even in the future? What do you hope to get? And really kind of thinking about maybe perhaps not this holiday or this gathering in a global way or a general way, but maybe something more granular, like a time when you did feel joy or connection with a family member, a friend. You might want to just sort of think about that for a moment. Imagine yourself at a time when you felt like your intention was really right and fulfilled, and you might have felt joy or connection, right? Just taking a moment to maybe think about a time when you felt that. I'm thinking about, for some reason, I love to dance. So I'm thinking about, this has nothing to do with Thanksgiving, but like I was at an event with a bunch of friends and we were just dancing like there was no tomorrow. And to me, like I believe I went into that event wanting that. And in fact, it happened, right? So sometimes as we sort of foresee it or visualize it, we can actually bring that to reality. So thinking about what's my intention, and perhaps it can be something smaller. I hope to connect with maybe one person at the gathering. I hope to have a moment where I can play with a niece, a nephew, a grandchild. It can be a moment. It doesn't have to be the whole experience. We put so much pressure on ourselves that the whole experience should be great and perfect and so fulfilling. And that's just not real life. So then the other thing I really want to talk about is resourcing. It's a word that I use a lot in my therapy, but I also do a lot of resourcing myself. So how can we resource ourselves when perhaps our intentions aren't getting fulfilled, or we're feeling overwhelmed, or we're feeling uncomfortable or tense, or we're filled with grief, let's say? A couple things that I like to do, or I really kind of share with my clients, friends, myself. Take breaks. Really take breaks. We're not meant to just sit in discomfort and not do anything about it, right? It's okay to take a break, to go to another room, to call a friend, to check out a meme that makes you laugh, to play a song that you love, to remind you that, you are somebody very unique and special, and you're someone who's loved and deserves joy. So taking a break is really important. Caring for self by potentially like doing things before the gathering that could help you, whether that's saying a prayer or going for a walk or giving yourself a nice bath, or honoring your feelings, having the mantra of all families are messy, not just mine. These things can really be helpful. Couple other things. Coming in with a plan could be really helpful. Like, I know that when we talk about politics, it gets really sticky. So what can I do? What can I come in with in terms of a plan to steer clear of that, or to find a way to change the subject? Or maybe I'm going to, you know, sit with this idea that it might be a little uncomfortable. Okay. And it may pass. If it doesn't, I can excuse myself. I can take a break. Coming up with a plan is really helpful. So those are all great things to think about. I am very big on mantras, very big on mantras. I love them. I love putting mantras on Post-its. So stick a Post-it in your pocket that says, you know, I'm amazing. I deserve to feel love. I have a right to my feelings. Anything that's going to help you come back to feeling grounded. Okay. I love mantras, and I love just bringing things with you that could be helpful. A couple other things, and I don't want to take a ton of time, but make space for gratitude. Gratitude for yourself, gratitude for moments that do actually feel good. I love to do gratitude walks. They help me. I'll be on a walk and I just think about all the things I'm grateful for: the trees changing, the grass, the car that I own, you know, the people in my life who bring me joy and make me feel connected. Even when things are tense or uncomfortable or we're grieving, we can find things to feel grateful for in that space. Okay. Grateful that my body could bring me here. Okay. So just remembering that can be really helpful. Couple other things. Family can be anyone. Family can be anyone. Sometimes our closest friends feel like family, and we really can use them when we're suffering. Making that phone call before the gathering, bringing their picture with you to remind yourself that you have this beautiful, nourishing connection, right? And that you have a right to that. And you will continue to have those kind of connections, even if it doesn't feel like that in the moment with this particular gathering. The other thing is really important. Try not to compare your experience with others. There's so much comparing on social media. We go on, we see everything looks perfect. Everyone's family looks glossy and polished, and there is no perfect. It's all messy. We just don't see it there. So really limiting that kind of exposure to social media can help a lot. And reminding yourself, this is my experience and I don't need to compare it with anyone else. No one else. And really try to remove yourself from those kinds of exposures that will make you feel that way. The last two things: bring your own flavor to the gathering. If you love poetry and you feel comfortable bringing a poem about gratitude, or you love art and want to bring an art project, anything that you feel will help you be more connected to the people who are there, bring your own unique flavor and see how it might change the dynamic, right? Where it's not necessarily about the topic of conversation. It could be about the song we're listening to, the art project we're working on, the game we're playing, the poem that might really elicit some great conversation that can feel connecting. And then the last thing I would say is be really reasonable to yourself about your expectations. I like to say quality over quantity. So if your intention is to have a few good connected moments with yourself or anyone else that you're with, that's wonderful, right? It's not counting the moments, but making the moments count. That's most important. So I appreciate being with you. I appreciate you sharing your feelings. I hope some of these resources, tools, and creative ideas might help you as you're experiencing this time with family, or even time with family in the future. And thank you so much for letting me be with you. This was a real honor and pleasure.
Thank you so much, Caryn, for all that incredible wisdom.
Sure.
So I was writing down, I have like all these notes. So it was just one like amazing thing after another.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, of course. And one of them that I want to highlight right now, as you said, bring your own flavor. And you also said to take breaks. So while you were speaking, I'm so appreciative of everybody who shared so vulnerably in the chat. And there are so many difficult things that people are carrying. And we're going to hold all of those and we're going to come back to them in a minute, but we're going to take a little break from the heaviness in order to allow everybody to bring their own flavor. And we're going to do that in the following way, is that I'm going to invite everybody to think about whether it's a special icebreaker that you love to do. It does not have to be Thanksgiving related, but it can. Any type of icebreaker. If you've ever gone to sleepaway camp, if you've ever tried to have people at a dinner party or any type of Shabbat meal that you wanted to get people talking, and you're going to put it in the chat. Or if you do like a question that everybody has to answer at your table, you can put that in the chat. And we're just going to kind of brainstorm together, share some ideas as we get ready for the next part of our program. So I can't wait to see what everyone's going to put in. I'll tell you, in our house, when we have Shabbat meals, we try to think of a question that's related to the Torah portion, which some weeks is very juicy and other weeks is a little bit of a stretch. So we try not to do the ones of like, who did you gossip about this week? We try to stay away from those, but sometimes those can be really related to the Parsha, to the Torah portion. Okay, so let's see what people are putting in. Ooh, what was your first job? That's a cool one. I never did that one before. Share one thing that no one knows about you and would never guess. I love that. I'm a caricature of myself, so I've been asking people if you could ask God one question. Oh, that's really deep and beautiful. What would it be? I love that. So you can keep putting questions. Also, if anyone has any games, you can put those in also. Icebreakers. There might be an icebreaker coming up later just to give you a little bit of a teaser. So stick around for that. I'm going to read two more that just popped up. What's the weirdest thing you've ever found in your pocket? Oh, that's amazing. I love it. How are you beautiful? Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Oh, they're coming so fast. What song can we sing related to Thanksgiving? This is amazing. So I would love the list of these. Yes, Ariella, can we compile these and share them? So you can put them in the chat at any point when they come to you, and we'll share them with the group. Okay, so now we're going to shift a tiny bit, and we're going to invite back Caryn and Rav Avi onto the main stage over here. And I'd love to kind of chat with both of you after your beautiful teachings, and also kind of think about when we talk about family, right? We can think about our immediate family, our current family, our family of origin, and also people were mentioning their friends. And then also we talked about going all the way back to the times of the Torah and thinking about the people in the Torah as our family. And so I'd love for us to speak for a minute about the idea that our community can also be a form of family, and we can feel closeness. We can choose who we want to be in community with, what kind of family we want to create. So Caryn, if you're comfortable, I'd love if you could kind of reflect a little bit about the pieces that you were discussing, really especially the idea that you said like family can be anyone, and share a little bit about how you think seeing community as family could benefit people.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this is it's a Jewish concept for sure, but it's also really a universal concept now. We're hearing more and more about friendsgivings, which I just love. I really love it. It feels like it speaks to the intentionality of getting together with people who we really love, who make us feel very connected in our lives. And, with all the emphasis on family, which of course is important, our families can be made up of friends and community members. And there's nothing to apologize there for. It's not a consolation prize. We're really meant to be with people who make us feel most like we're in our best selves. and we're showing up fully. And whoever that is for you, I invite you to invite them to your gatherings, whenever they may be. Like on a communal level, that experience that I was describing with dancing was at my synagogue. I feel like my community, and my closest friends in my community are my family. So we celebrate together, we grieve together, we talk about hard things together, we laugh together. All the things that we hope to do with family that, sometimes we can and sometimes we can't, right? There's something very special about our chosen families. And I think that's really what you're speaking to here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Ravi, when you were speaking about estrangement, that actually got me thinking a lot about the Jewish community, because I feel like a lot of people in the last 2 years or so have felt like the communities that they're a part of, they may no longer feel really connected to, and they may be switching communities or looking for a new community, or they may have found new community, or they might still be on the search. So I'm wondering how you think people can approach that, if there's wisdom from the Torah that you think speaks to this idea that community can feel like family, and family can be found in community.
Yeah. I mean, certainly there's so many different ways actually to think about that question. Like I had always thought much more about the theological reflection model as like I hadn't thought about it in the communal sense, but I really do feel like it sounds almost cheesy, but to say like in a way, actually, we can think of our biblical characters as part of our community, as like people that we can learn from and interact with and love, and that the same way that you're like, oh, I have family that I only see at Thanksgiving. It's like we have these family members that we come back around to, when we get to that part of the story, and we can say like, oh, how are you different? How am I different this time around? So like even without having to extend out into the world now, I sort of want to offer that as a way of feeling less alone. And then also to say that that allows us, like once we feel really connected to these characters, that allows us as Jews to be family members with everyone else, right? Like if your Friendsgiving is other people in the Jewish community, and also we feel like, well, we have this shared ancestor that is really a part of our lives, then in that way, like we actually are like we are a family, which again, it could be cheesy, and it can also be like completely sincere and meaningful. And to say, like, if I'm with my Jewish community, I'm with people that matter. And I think that like community is so inextricably linked with our Judaism. My son is I'm coming up on a bar mitzvah, so like Caryn, when you're like, what are the feelings you have? I'm like, forget Thanksgiving. We have all the family coming for the bar mitzvah. Like that's where I have all the feelings. But one of the things I keep trying to come back to is like, why am I excited about this? And like, what am I trying to offer? What When I'm offering my son Judaism, what am I offering him? And I keep coming back to this idea of like, I'm offering him this community. Like I'm offering him these people that he can show up at a shul and engage with this Torah and engage with these people in the room. And that's the gift of Judaism that I want for my son. And that's the gift that I want sort of like for everyone on this call and for, Klal Yisrael and for all Jews, is to like really be able to feel that feeling of community.
That's so beautiful. I've never heard like the gift described in that way, that like that's what you're giving your child. That's really gorgeous. And not to be super cheesy, but Ariella, I feel like that's what you've done for everyone in SVIVAH, is that you've given us this like gift of a place where anybody can come and feel, I hope everyone on the call feels it, like feels that this is a community where you're all welcome and everyone can come as they are, as you always say in the intro, and that we're all connected, which is a little foreshadowing of a really amazing thing I'm so excited about that we're going to do in about 10-15 minutes, where I'm 100% sure that when we try to figure it out together, we will see that we're all connected in some way. And probably it's pretty close, right? We don't have to go, I don't think we have to go all the way back to Avram and Sarah in order to see how we have links in the chain. But the idea that we're all connected in some way and we're all part of one family, and that we can come and find a place in a community, whether we have family to go to or not. It doesn't always have to be, I don't have family, and therefore I'm coming to community. It can be, I have family, and I choose, this is my community that I choose to be a part of, to have these special, meaningful times, these special moments that I mark, and these warm hugs, whether physical, virtual, or any other kind. So thank you both so much for your wisdom, and I'm so excited to share the things that you taught with the people that I will see on Thanksgiving and the rest of the SVIVAH community. Okay, so now that we're talking about community, Jordan is going to talk about a way that we can not only receive community, but also give. So Jordan, please share that with us.
Great, thank you so much. I think we spend so much of our time, our lives, defining ourselves through the lens of family, right? We think about ourselves as a sister or a daughter, or a granddaughter, a mom, an aunt, cousin, partner. And those roles, they really shape how we show up. They're who we check in on, they're who we cook for who we worry about, who we celebrate, who we try to protect. But the same instincts that guide us in how we care inside our family can also guide us in how we care in our broader community. Because families, both are given and are chosen and everything in between, really teach us things like how to notice when someone needs help without having to ask them, or how to show up when it's inconvenient, or how to tolerate a difference of opinions, how to offer comfort in a way that's small, how to hold multiple truths at once, like love plus frustration plus joy plus messiness, and how to keep showing up even when the big fix isn't available. Those family skills, they're really also community building skills. And I love thinking about who we are in the broader community. I think it's so special. We're tossing these labels around to define ourselves. We go to our family first, right? Sister, daughter, but why not think of ourselves also as a volunteer or as a change maker? Because community fills some of those needs, some of those family needs. And I want us to take a couple of minutes to think about how we in turn can take our lived experiences and bring them into the community. So I don't think anyone here would disagree that the world needs like a little bit of loving right now, a little bit of love. I know a lot of us, myself included, keep having these moments where that inner voice sort of like peeks out and looks around and then like ducks back inside because it seems just like way too big. And maybe you've asked yourself, like, how could anything I ever do make a difference in changing the world? Back when I was in grad school, we would talk a lot about systematic change, these big ideas of sort of influencing policies and building new structures and what we could do if we had all the resources in the world. And that work matters. It definitely does. But if you just bear with me for a second, I want to talk about it in terms of a quick analogy. A bridge collapses, right? A bridge collapse, it's destroyed and everyone is stranded. So we start thinking, how do we rebuild it? How do we gather the engineers? How do we gather the machines? How do we gather the fundings? And how do we change the regulations so this never happens again, right? This is how we think about change. But wait, at the banks of my imaginary bridge disaster, dozens of people fell into the water when the bridge collapsed. And there are already people standing on the shoreline helping. They brought their own life jackets, they brought their own ropes, and they're pulling people out of the water. Someone else showed up with a cooler filled with water and bananas and energy bars, and someone else baked cookies, and they're literal lifesavers. They're just saving the world by helping just one person at a time. And I think a lot of us do that. And I think a lot of us also have a tendency to downplay the work of those on the shoreline, right? We think, oh, I just brought some water, or, I just helped one person, I just dropped one thing off. But if nothing else, when we're talking about community, I want you to walk away tonight feeling proud of your role in your community and in your family. There's no, I just did this little tiny thing. No, because tiny things make massive shifts. And tiny things often start exactly where your heart lives, right? So I rescue dogs, which means I'm at the vet almost once a week. I was actually there this morning, and I was there yesterday. And something that you might not know is that veterinarians actually have one of the highest suicide rates of any profession. And that, you know, we're not going to get into that, but it's complicated. And a lot of that has to do with people come in panicked and grieving and scared, and they take it out on the vet because they can't magically fix everything or do a surgery for free. So I stop at the grocery store every time I go to the vet on my way in, and I bring cookies or donuts. Nothing fancy. It's just a little treat and a moment of like, hey, thanks for all you do. I see you. I appreciate you. Am I changing the structure of how we support veterinarians? No, not yet. But am I making a difference? I really believe that I am. And that's what I want you to hold onto for our last 20 minutes or so together. Because most of us, we're not going to rebuild the whole bridge. But every single one of us can reach into the water and pull someone to safety. We act with our hearts. And yes, I'm not saying that big donations or big actions or big protests don't make a difference, because they can, and they definitely do. But what also makes a difference is grabbing some extra canned goods when you shop for your and dropping them off at your local food pantry, or making a small monetary donation to your local food bank, or checking out your local schools to see if they have any winter gifts or supply drives. Even here in Florida, my local elementary in my small town is asking for hats and mittens and toys. And I just sent them two Pete the Cat books right from their Amazon wish list. I literally didn't have to do anything but click. Um, and I always donate anytime I'm leaving PetSmart and there are toys on sale for a local shelter, or I'll add $1 or $2 to my purchase. It's just the small things that really add up. And so many nonprofits are looking for you and your special skills. Are you an artist? Do you speak Spanish and could spend a few hours helping with translations? Can you sign up to send postcards reminding people to vote, or make a call to your senator? What about shoveling the snow off the sidewalk in front of your neighbor's house? It's not for all of us. It's definitely not a way that I could give back, but for those who can, it's always so appreciated. So just want to remind you that every check-in, every moment of kindness, every time you leave a box of Cheerios in your community's free pantry is community repair. And the world doesn't change because a few people do something enormous. It changes because many people do something small on purpose and with heart. So whatever your cookies at the vet looks like, I want you to do it boldly. I don't want you to minimize it. I want you to let it count, because it really does. And I want you to remember that the little things you do are a model to other people to do their little things. And that's the stuff that really changes the world, which is why I'm so excited. We're about to hear about two individuals who have changed their community by starting with something near to their heart. And we're going to offer a few answers to what can we do for our community. So I'm going to toss it over to you, Ariella, to talk a little bit about that.
I think Dahlia, yeah?
All right, whoever wants to talk.
I'll go. Then I'll pass to Ariella. Okay. So I just want to introduce everybody to somebody. She couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to tell you about her. And as you were preparing the program, we kept calling her the Cookie Lady, because she is this incredible woman who lives in my community, who somehow, I have no idea how she knows the exact moment to spontaneously show up at my house holding a bag of cookies that she baked in her home, just because she felt like doing something kind. I came home from some crazy pre-Rosh Hashanah shopping trip. Everything was a mess. Our house was a disaster. Everybody was going crazy. And there was something weird looking in the mailbox. And so we went to look in the mailbox, and there in a Ziploc bag were two circle challahs with rainbow sprinkles. And there was no note, but automatically we said, these are from Caryn. They must be. And of course they were. And then last week, when our car was stuck at the mechanic, as it loves to go, it's its favorite place to visit, we had no way to get my daughter to her after-school program. And I said, what am I going to do? And I called Caryn. And of course, she said, come, take my car. It's not a problem. You could take it for as long as you need. And then later that night, when I called her an hour after, I gave it back and said, I think we left something in the car. Could we come back and look through the car? There's no end to her kindness. And when I told her about this program and I asked her if it would be okay for me to speak about her, I found her in the synagogue kitchen cleaning up and washing the dishes just because. And that's when I asked her if I could talk about her endless acts of kindness. And so I asked her if she would share with me what motivates her and what leads her to do these just random acts of kindness for people. And this is what she shared with me, so I'm going to read it to you. I was born and grew up in a very small Jewish community. We had one synagogue and a rabbi as a leader who was in charge of basically everything. My parents were very staunch supporters of the shul and the community, and after the family, the shul and the community were the most important things in their life. We all pitched in for whatever was needed. The community was not a wealthy community, and helping out was more often a physical commitment and not writing a check. So my desire to help came naturally. I inherited it. I want to contribute to keep the Jewish community strong. If I can somehow make someone's life or path easier, I feel I have been given a blessing. Likewise, if I can help someone feel less alone or more included, I also love to be able to make people smile and laugh. It is the joy of life, and thank God I have been given a lot of opportunities. So Caryn is my inspiration in terms of how to be in community, how to always be smiling, how to just be giving and spontaneous. And if I can do even one act, like the 5,000 things she does on a daily basis, then that will be very wonderful. So thank you, Caryn in absentia, and I'm happy that I was able to introduce her to all of you. Okay, Ariella, your turn.
That's amazing. Amazing. And I'm sorry, but first of all, I love the idea of being able to talk about people who do such good in the world. And while I'm talking, I would love to, I find so much inspiration from people who put good in the world, take time to do good in the world, put their energy into the world. So I'm going to ask while I'm talking about somebody very amazing. If you do something, whatever your small thing, whatever your box of cookies at the vet is, can you put it in the chat so that it inspires all of us to take on something new or to find a new way or a new path for some positive energy in the world? For me, it personally makes me feel inspired and remember to do like what Jordan does. I can bring cookies, right? Like I can do those things. So you become my teacher. So if you throw it into the chat, that would be wonderful. But right now I am so honored to be able to talk about Sarah Milner. And I'm really, really grateful to have been able to get to know Sarah because she just so happens to be the mother-in-law of our Rabbanita Lisa Sperling. I'm going to consolidate a gorgeous story. And if you ever find yourself in Sarah's living room or sphere or anywhere, let her tell you her story. Nudge her to tell you the rest of her story. Sarah grew up in Savannah, Georgia, the youngest of 5 children until her brother Sam was born. As it happened, Sarah was 15 when Sam was born, and the family realized that he was born with Down syndrome. The story of love and care that Sarah shared with me about her relationship with Sam is something that is very rare and special. Sam recently passed away, and he was so deeply a part of Sarah's life. She shared so many gorgeous and simple and beautiful stories of how she and her parents worked to create support and social structure and opportunities for Sam to give him a beautiful, beautiful, full life, especially at a time in Savannah or in the history of just our history where there was not a lot for those with special needs. There is a lot more to say about Sam, but tonight it's the rest of Sarah's story that I wanted to share. Life moved Sarah away from Savannah after she pursued a degree in social work, and she came to the DC area and volunteered her time to build an incredible support structure for the special needs community in the DC area. After school, camp, inclusion programs, so much, all from the vision that she had that this was what should be. Like simple. That was it. And if that wasn't enough, Sarah is also the founder of Sunflower Bakery, a culinary training program and an amazing bakery. You can check out the link in the chat, and I would highly recommend ordering from them. I am partial to their chocolate crinkle cookies. They are delicious. They ship all over. And this program trains hundreds of special needs adults to have functional jobs and professional skills. It started with a handful of people in the kitchen of Sarah's shul and is now an amazing nonprofit with incredible impact on the broader community and hundreds of graduates. There is zero doubt that Sam influenced your amazing work and the way you walk through the world, Sarah. Your lived experience, just your family experience influenced and shaped this amazing way that you showed up in community. And I want to ask you, even though Sam lived, so first of all, thank you for all that you did, especially being adjacent and in your neighborhood. It's amazing to actually be a beneficiary of so many of the things that you built and did. And I know you're modest, you did it with lots of people. Yeah. Even though Sam lived his whole life in Savannah, can I ask you, how was the work that you did here in DC, hundreds of miles away from Sam, an extension of your relationship with him? Or how do you think that your relationship with Sam and the work that you did has changed his world, even though he didn't directly benefit from what you did here in your neck of the woods?
First off, I definitely want to introduce you to my brother Sam right here. That was when he was about 20 years old with both my dad and my mom. And here he is, probably about 40. He was a great character. He had his present. You talk about greeting everyone with a positive outlook. He was the one. That was Sam. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be here, especially since it's so close after the loss of him. It's meaningful for me to continue on to help share how important a person he was. He was my cherished baby brother from the moment he was born. I was the youngest of five, and I always wanted a little brother or sister. Through our lived experiences together, I was painfully aware of what was not available to Sam, my parents, and my family in Savannah. And through my it wasn't even just in the Jewish community, it was the larger community in general. My parents didn't stand by and leave things as they were. They became people who made things happen for Sam and so many others with developmental disabilities, not just in our community, but also throughout the state of Georgia and beyond by volunteering, taking leadership positions, initiating actions. So my career focusing on inclusion of individuals with disabilities began and grew and expanded in response to the lack of programs, services, and responses from individuals and groups with regard to meeting Sam's and our family's needs as he grew from a toddler to an adult. In 1970, when Sam was only 7 years old, I married and left Savannah, living first in Pittsburgh for graduate school, then to the Rockville and Potomac areas of Maryland. From then on, it was a long-distance romance with holidays spent together either in Savannah or here, traveling together, being together for Simchot, and just making sure that Sam came up here to visit us often when he was independent enough to get on a plane, which he did, and got off the plane by himself, and we would meet him at the airport. If my husband met him, he would say, my husband usually met him, if I met him, he would say to me, "Where's my brother?" And now this is my husband, not a blood relative. And they were best of friends throughout Sam's life. When over the years thereafter, there was a lot of change and growth in the DC area for families and individuals with disabilities. So as I grew and learned, applying what I learned to my work in the communities here where I lived, I informed my parents about what could be done, given the resources, community support, and the commitment of many incredible individuals. Throughout Sam's growing up in adult years, I shared information on best practices and results of some of the pushing the envelope work we did here to encourage my parents and to have higher expectations and to keep up their efforts. As a result, my mom founded a group home for Sam when he turned 21 and for others, and he lived in that group home until he recently passed at age 62. And even though he didn't have the options for inclusiveness in his community that we were able to do here in ours, he really had glimpses of it. And my parents could feel and appreciate what they would have loved for him had they had more opportunity and been able to do more for him. So when they passed away, I had oversight of Sam's experiences of his living in his group home, of his recreation, of his day program. As in for many people with Down syndrome, if they live long enough, the booby prize they get is Alzheimer's. And he had Alzheimer's in the last 2.5 years. Though this very dynamic character, very strong-willed person, was a person who could barely communicate, who was not able to even hold the spoon. And yet he was still that person underneath, because when we visited, I called him every day and he talked to my husband. He was still in there, and they would do shtick together on the phone, and even literally within till the last few days of his life. So one of the things that was very meaningful, us coming back to your whole discussion of community, is that when we came back here for Shiva, we split it between Savannah to be with siblings and then come back up here. Coming back to this community was coming home, because Sam loved visiting this community. He loved people who knew them by name. People knew him as an adult, as a person, as Sam Portman, not just that guy with Down syndrome. And so for me to be able to see that not only did this enhance his life while he was with us, to have these kinds of experiences as a result of the people that I knew and the things we did and the community that we built and the kind of values that were passed on for inclusion in the community. You know what? Now, I mean, for us, it was great comfort. And it brings honor to him and his memory when you think about this person who could only write his name, 3 letters, S-A-M, never could do math, would never need a calendar. But you ask him about Elvis or almost any songs, you give him 3 bars and he would be able to tell you who sang it. And again, could talk about how knew Yiddish, said Kaddish for my parents in his own way, from the way he learned to say Kaddish by memory. So what I feel now in terms of what he's brought to work I do, it's been one thing after another. It's so rewarding to me to see it blow and grow and bloom and give people opportunities that he certainly never had, and they would not get somewhere else to be able to do the things they do in getting career training and actually getting employed and having meaningful work. I say that, I was kind of in charge with Sam before, but now he's going to be in charge. He's going to be responsible for inclusion in Olam Haba.
God, I love this. I can listen to you talk about Sam forever. Sarah, thank you. I thank you for sharing Sam with us, and you're very modest in not talking about all of the impact and the work that you do. But I think the takeaway that I'm hoping that we all get from you, from your relationship with Sam, and the ways that he inspired what you chose to do next, both out of love for him and also out of frustration for the things that were missing for him. I think that the combination of your reflection of what happened in your family and what you could create in community for others and what you wanted for your brother, and Dahlia, what you're talking about having someone who values community so much that she finds ways to support it and nurture it every single day in so many different ways that are small but make such difference. Jordan, that's like so much of what you were talking about. Sometimes I feel like we walk through the world feeling so overwhelmed by the ways that things are broken and feel like totally helpless to help. And I think selfishly, it is so important and wonderful for me to hear this reminder of how these little and not so little things that are in our power, that are inspired by things that are positive, and also in reaction to things that we don't want to see continue and things that we do want to see change, that things that we can do, that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. That even if we're not building a bridge, the idea of bringing a banana actually changes somebody's entire day, an entire world, and makes such a big difference. And all of us doing that, for me, that's the world that I want to continue to live in. And so I'm reading all the pieces that you're all putting into the chat, and I'm going to go back to them, and I'm just taking so much inspiration and so much heart from knowing that I'm living in community with people who not only feel with their hearts, but take what they're feeling in their hearts and take that energy and put it back into the world. And for me, that's like Sam's doing his work. Olam Haba is trickling down here, and we are all putting good into the world, and that makes me feel so grateful and so good. So thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing. And again, sunflowerbakery.org. I can't vouch for the quality and the gorgeousness of what they do enough.
Thank you, Sarah. That was incredible. Thank you so much. And we are not done yet. We have two more really special and really short things coming. But before we get to those things, I'm just going to first do the announcements. So just hang in there with me. The first thing I want to do, of course, is thank everybody who taught tonight. Thank you, Rabbi Avi. Thank you, Caryn. Thank you, Sarah. And of course, also thank you, Jordan and Ariella. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for being a part of our SVIVAH family, and for sharing all the things that you're thinking about with regard to family with us, and for being here together tonight. We have a few, and we want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, whether you celebrate Thanksgiving, whether you don't, whatever the day looks like. We hope that it's a time where you feel held and cared for, and know that we are thinking about you and sending you love on that day. And we are now going to shift to our last two things, because we're not going to end without some music. So let me explain where the music's going to come from. Tonight is actually a really special night, not only because of this gathering, but because tonight begins the holiday of Sig. So while we're talking about different elements of our community, part of our beautiful Jewish community is the Ethiopian Jewish community, and Sigd is a holiday that they celebrate 50 days after Yom Kippur, which starts tonight and goes through tomorrow, like the Jewish holidays do. Historically, on Sigd, Jews living in Ethiopia would mark the renewal of the covenant between God and the Jewish people and pray to return to Jerusalem, a little bit like Shavuot. And now that the majority of Ethiopian Jews live in Israel, the community marks this holiday by gathering at the Kotel, the Western Wall, celebrating their return to Israel and educating others about Ethiopian Jewish history and culture. And I'd love if you could put in the chat if you've ever celebrated Sigd, if you've ever seen it, if you've ever been part of any type of gathering. I'd love to hear about that. So in honor of Sigd, we wanted to highlight an Ethiopian Israeli artist. Her name is Esther Rada. She was born in Kiryat Arba in Israel to a religious Ethiopian Jewish family. Her parents were originally from a village near Gondar, where they were rescued by Israel from a refugee camp in Sudan during Operation Moses in 1984. And she grew up speaking Amharic at her home. Her father was known as a cantor in the Ethiopian Jewish community in Kiryat Arba. And in 2014, Esther Rada's song Nanune became the first song in Amharic to be at the top 10 of the Israeli radio chart. So that's an incredible accomplishment. We're going to put the link to the lyrics in the chat. They're in Amharic. So if you know Amharic, then that's going to be great for you. If not, you're welcome to look at them anyway. And we also found a little bit of an explanation of what the lyrics mean. So we'll put that in the chat as well. We'll play a little bit, and then I just want to highlight one line, and then we have a closing icebreaker after the music. Feel free to dance along. It's a really upbeat and beautiful song. Okay, So, Jordan, if you're able to put the music on. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what the song means in the meantime. The second verse of the song, that's the one I want to focus on. It focuses on community and the importance of support. The lines, I'm not going to try to read it because I'm going to totally read it wrong, but it means, together as one, we will triumph. And the song ends in a journey acknowledging that the search for strength and resilience is ongoing. So I found that to be something so beautiful and felt like it was really the right thing for this time of year and for this moment. So that is a bit of what the song is about. Okay, so the song is coming. So we'll have a short clip dance party, and then we'll do our closing. We will send out the song so that you can hear the full thing, but we wanted to get a little bit of a taste of it so that we can do a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of SIG together and acknowledge this beautiful element of our community.